describe your brand, who you are, what you stand for, the value you provide, and then maybe just talk about your brand journey, just in case it has changed or evolved over time.
I remember way back, my uncle would watch Samurai Sundays. I think that was what it was called. And I would hear, ooh, all the kung fu, and then all of a sudden a Dove commercial would come on. Just 180, right? And so Dove was soft, and it was honest, and it was inclusive. It was a very different feel. And so the feeling is what I remember most about the shift in the energy in the room when these commercials came on. And so as I got older, when people would ask me, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say, I want to make people happy, and I want to make things pretty, because that's what that Dove commercial affected me by. And I feel like that's where my brand started.
Welcome to the Turbo Branding Show, where we help you ignite your growth by leveraging your brand to grow faster, easier, and more successfully. You'll discover insightful conversations from our powerful guests, who are founders, CEOs, and advisors for thriving businesses, who are sharing how they've successfully built strong brands to help you expand and grow. I'm your host, Sue Kirchner, and today we are welcoming Meka Hemmons to the show. So let's delve into today's episode and turbocharge your brand. First, thank you so much for being here, Meka.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Sue. I am honored to be in your presence.
Lovely. I love that. But anyway, I'm excited to have you on to talk about the power of photography to help you communicate and build your visual brand. And I recently had you do some new brand photos for me, and I absolutely love them. But let me first start by introducing Meka to you. So she's an internationally recognized portrait photographer. SpiderMeka Hemmons wields her camera like a heart surgeon's scalpel, not simply making sure we are accurately represented in personal and professional photos, but revealing deep truths, disrupting what we think about the beauty industry, and changing belief systems behind what we see in the mirror. I like that. With 25 years of experience in communication, branding, and human studies, Meka moved from A-list celebrity photo retouching into building a platform of artistry, education, consulting, and speaking to help everyday people celebrate their natural attributes and prove that beauty is more than skin deep. Welcome so much, Meka. Did I miss anything in there that you'd want to share?
No, you hit all the points. Yeah.
Okay.
I have to pause and listen to the words sometimes, out of body experience. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yes, it is always interesting when you hear somebody else describe you. But that's what makes someone like me as a brand consultant giddy, because I love hearing what other people say. But all right, dig in and talk about the power of photography to tell your brand story. First question I have for you is, let me ask you, what's your brand? In your words, how do you describe your brand, who you are, what you stand for, the value you provide? And then maybe just talk about your brand journey, just in case it has changed or evolved over time.
I do get giddy at the same time as you. Branding is where I started off in life. It's an interesting thing. Okay, we got two questions right out of the gate. Here we go.
Okay.
I would consider my brand a little high profile, but also accessible. I am a truth craver, so my brand is very honest. My brand is also very efficient. It is highly communicative. It is boutique, customized, personalized, all that good stuff. I could go on and on. Is that enough?
Wherever you want to stop, I just like listening to it. Yeah.
I heard you mention brand story, and I think what I'm about to say is going to answer your question. Like, how did I get here? Because all those things that we list about our brand should be intentional, right? Not something that's a surprise. Oh, this is what other people say about me, but I didn't know that I was these things. No, it's the reason why you start your business, right? And so I remember way back when I was a tiny little thing, sitting in my grandmother's living room, watching television on a Saturday morning, and Dove commercials would come on.
Yeah.
And after cartoons, or actually it wasn't after cartoons at all. My uncle he wasn't like babysitting or anything. He was there, and he would watch Samurai Sundays. I think that was what it was
Oh, okay.
called.
Hmm.
Kung Fu, Bruce Lee,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. I would have rather watched cartoons, but this stuff was pretty interesting. And so we would be watching it, and I would hear, ooh, all the Kung Fu, yeah. And then all of a sudden a Dove commercial would come on. Just 180, right?
Mhm.
And so Dove was soft and it was honest and it was, what's the word, inclusive. It
Mhm.
was a very different feel. And so the feeling is what I remember most about the shift in the energy in the room when these commercials came on. And I remember being affected by that even as a kid. Here I am, I'm 7, 8, 9 years old, and I'm at that age, we can't really articulate what's happening to us, but the feeling is always real. And so I remember being affected by these commercials and feeling happy, feeling soothed, feeling understood. Even as a kid, that's what the Dove commercial did to me.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, not really being able to articulate what advertising is or design is or any of those things. I remember feeling, when I become an adult, that's what I want to do.
Mm.
I want to make things pretty and I want to make people happy.
Yeah.
And so as I got older, when people would ask me, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I would never say, "I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be whatever." I would say, "I want to make people happy and I want to make things pretty," because that's what that Dove commercial affected me
Mm.
by. And I feel like that's where my brand started.
Okay.
I was a very good observer when I was a kid. I had a lot of sisters. I have 5 sisters. Mom and dad had 6 girls. So there was a lot of chaos in the family. And with my mom being who she was and my dad being who he was, I learned at a very early age to just really pay attention to people's energy. And I wanted to be the one to make sure that there was peace in the house. So, whatever all the energies were doing, I would come in and be the translator, be the peacemaker, be the pacifier, whatever. Do you need a glass of water? Do you need the window open? Do you need a blanket? Like, I wanted things to be soothing. Little did I know that those were probably defense mechanisms for me because I didn't like the chaos. But hey, that's where we are. And so my brand is very a good listener. I want to make sure that you're having a great time with this thing that we're doing.
I like that. Very self-aware of you to be able to pinpoint that journey and the characteristics of what you were trying to accomplish for your own life and then how that turns around and gets reflected out. But you studied brand design, didn't you?
Yep, that's exactly where that story went. As a kid, learning later in life, when I was in high school, I think artistry and creativity was really strong in my family. My dad drew with pencil. He was an excellent illustrator. My mom was a seamstress and a baker and a photographer and all these kinds of things. So creativity was really strong in my family. And so when I was in high school, I took art classes, and it wasn't just painting or sculpture and things like that, but it was design. Mac computers had been on the up, and Photoshop was just in our world now. And so those things were interesting to me. And so I quickly learned that advertising and design and branding communications is what they called it back in my day,
Mm.
visual communications. And so
Yes.
I knew that's the field I wanted to go into and study in college.
Okay. All right. So, a quick question for you then, because obviously we were talking about you're very self-aware about your own personal brand. But do you think, in your mind, is there a difference between your brand and branding what you do now for a living?
Is there a difference between my brand, what I do now for a living?
So, meaning your personal brand, who you are, how
Oh,
authentic you are, versus feel like you have to change something when you brand what you do or your business?
that is a great question. And the answer is absolutely not. I would always hear people say, separate business from pleasure and leave your work at work and come home and be a different person. And you can't wear your heart on your sleeve and all these kind of phrases.
Yeah.
Immediately when I started my business, I learned that none of those things would apply to me. It was just the opposite was true for me. I wear my heart on my sleeve every single day. I wake up and enter into and everything that I do. I my business is a direct reflection of who I am.
I love it. All right. So now let's talk about photography because that's what you do, right? So, what role does photography play in building a personal or organizational brand?
I know this is going to sound biased coming from me, the photographer, but m- a lot of people are very visual, right? What was the statistics? Something like 100 milliseconds or 2 point something nanosecond. It's a very short amount of time
Uh-huh.
it takes for us to see an image and our brains to start just going nuts with making relationships and conclusions and assumptions and connections.
Yeah.
Our brains are so amazing with the quickness before we're actually realizing that these connections and conclusions and everything are actually being made. Our
Hmm.
brain has already just downloaded so much information. And so we think about nowadays where so many more people are entrepreneurs. The business world has opened up enormously in just the last decade alone, as far as possibilities and capabilities for us to create businesses for ourselves. My dad worked for Ford for a million years, and oldest sister she was HR, Marshall Fields for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as my point is we're able to create so much more and niche ourselves and create businesses that never existed before, and it's amazing and it's beautiful and it's exciting. So because of that, because it's no longer here I work for Ford, let's put a stamp on this, or here Marshall Fields that everybody knows, let's put a stamp on this. We are our brand.
Yeah.
We have to be face forward. It doesn't work anymore where you just don't have a photo on your LinkedIn page, your gray box, or you're substituting your own photograph for your cat or your dog. No, we as a community and as a society, we're so much smarter too than we used to be. When advertising was new, we were all gullible, snake oil salesmen and used car. We fell for it. But nowadays, we have the internet at our fingertips. We are knowledgeable. We've all been to school now. Most of us we're educated. We have television. We have resources. We're so much smarter that we cannot be tricked. And so when we enter into a service or a business or a product or anything, what we want, what we desire, is not necessarily to buy that service or product, but we want to know the why and the human behind it.
Right.
We want to connect with that because once we know that story, then we're more apt to agree with whatever is being placed in front of us. And
Right.
so if you are not face forward in your business as an entrepreneur, you are literally leaving money on the table.
Hmm.
You are not reaching the community of people that wants to enter into your service or product, and you're doing yourself a disservice.
Right. Right. No, I agree totally. Because, like you were talking about, it's this whole visual aspect of the brand, which is not where I play. I admire it profusely. I wish I had any kind of visual creative talent, but the visual aspect of the brand, most companies or even personal brands, they think about, oh, logo, colors, fonts. What
Mhm.
do I want to evoke by just those particular printed ideas? But photos actually help you tell that brand story more effectively because, like you said, it's a snapshot at a person. It's a snapshot of a team working together. It's a snapshot of someone helping a customer. So why do people still use stock photos? And how do you talk to your clients about that authenticity of using photography?
Such an important question, Sue. I love that a lot. This, and maybe we're getting into it too. Stock photography. We're gonna add AI photos in
Yeah,
there too, because that's very popular now. The generation of an image, if we can't find it on stock imagery now, we can generate it through AI.
right.
Here's the danger. with using so I'm first of all, I'm going to say it's not necessarily wrong to use AI generated photos or stock photography as a blanket statement. It's super useful, right? What is dangerous if is using only stock photography and AI generated photos. And what is dangerous too is using AI generated photos to represent your own personal likeness
Yeah.
without that. Again, I'm going to sound really biased, but I actually wrote an entire article about this because I am who I am. And this is a big topic lately. There are a lot of people who were really excited in the beginning when AI came around. Oh, I can just upload some selfies of myself and all of a sudden I can get this great photo with AI. There was the joke where AI doesn't really know how many fingers a human actually has. And so you ended up having 11 toes and blah, blah, blah. But what AI will never be able to do is two things. Number one, there's a reason why we look in each other's eyes. There is a soul, energy, human connection that AI will never, ever in a million years be ever to generate. You cannot create a soul. And so a real photograph of you is going to have a soulful, energetic element that AI will never be able to recreate. That's number one. The experience of being photographed, no matter the reason why most people don't want to be photographed is all the fear and the trauma and the disappointment as a result that happens from being photographed. That is literally the reason why I went into the business that I went into, because I know how to break that trauma, heal that trauma, reverse that trauma. And if you're only relying on AI generated photographs, you're robbing yourself of the experience to be healed. You're accepting that getting pieces and parts from other humans, which is exactly what AI is doing to reform your features and create something that honestly doesn't exist. That to me, that is unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's not a healing process. When people come to me, it's an experience. They see right away, without filters, without Photoshop, that, their past story about being photographed is actually untrue because they just haven't been in front of the person who can see them properly and who has the skill set to produce a beautiful photograph of them instantly, immediately, without any tricks. AI is a trick. And if you continue lying to yourself and being tricked, you never go through the healing process in the experience.
I like,
And so, again, there's nothing wrong with stock photography or team photos or product photos and using these kind of tools to supplement your website and your company materials, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes down to who is running this company, who am I connecting to, who's the why that I am, the energy behind this product or service, it has to be you. It cannot be a supplement.
no, I absolutely love what you're saying. And there's a couple things that, yeah, I would like to riff on here with you a little bit. You're talking about looking into the soul and building a relationship. Branding is all about creating a relationship with your customer or your stakeholder, your employee, your whatever audience matters to you. So it's about building that relationship. And like you said, if you at any point don't feel like you're interacting with the true self on the other side of this communication, transaction, whatever it is that you're doing, it creates this dissonance and it's a problem. And I was reading an article, I think it was in Inc. magazine, but I was reading an article on marketing trends for 2024 at the beginning of the year. And it was going on and talking about how people distrust everything now. We don't trust
Mm-hmm.
organizations anymore. We don't trust companies. We don't trust,
Yeah,
to a certain extent, even organized religion sometimes. And there's all this, there's so much bad information out there, deep fakes, all this kind of stuff, that what people are craving when it comes to marketing, or when people are craving when it comes to working with another business, is I want to know that you're authentic, right? I want to
absolutely.
know that you're telling me the truth. And I don't care if it's not the prettiest story out there, but I want to know that you're telling me the truth. And I think that's where AI skews
It fails.
everything.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as you had mentioned, it's not you. It may be a beautiful picture, maybe a beautiful photo, but it's not authentic. It's not you. And I say the same thing about writing. AI can do it. It's a great tool on the writing side. It can help you put some thoughts together that are out there. It can help you create outlines, things like that,
Sure.
but it cannot help you create anything original. And we
Exactly.
we are all original. And I think photography is a way to capture that originality of your being, of your brand, or even of the culture of your organization. And I definitely want to throw a shout out. You're talking about fear with photography. And yes, I've been that way in the past as, oh, I'm never going to film a video until I lose 10 pounds, or I'm just going to keep my old headshots because I'm just terrified of what my new headshot's going to look like and things like that. But you
Hmm.
have to get out of that headspace because again, you need to be truthful and authentic. And someone like you, having sat through one of your photography events and experiences, you do have a magical way of being able to pull out the true self and make people feel comfortable. So I'm going to ask you, how do you do that?
How did I know that was coming?
Yes.
Um, so I absolutely agree with you. As service providers, product creators, we every day show up and ask people to trust us, to
Mhm.
be vulnerable, to tell me all the things that you're dealing with so that we can help you. And so, how dare we think that it's okay to show up not our own true selves, asking for someone else to trust us? And so, how I do that, how I do the magic. First, I'm going to say this because you used a phrase just a couple seconds ago where you invited people to, I'm going to quote you, get out of their heads when it comes to showing up in front of the camera. It's a super traumatic space for a lot of people. And it's hard to just take a deep breath and go for it. I'm going to have the courage. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to get out of my own head. It's actually, I'm going to be very bold here and say it's not that simple because of the question that you asked me.
Okay.
You said you experienced a photo session with me.
Yep.
The magic is that I know that it's not just about the technicalities of working a camera or using a studio light. I know that there is also, with the skill of using a camera, there is a skill of being able to draw energy out of a human. If there are other photographers out there who are able to do that, great. My point is that it's not actually on you to get out of your headspace. Your challenge is to find someone like me and other photographers who are able to draw out your energy. That's the challenge. It's not your job, it's not anyone else's job to do what my job literally is. I equate it a lot to so many other different professions and just experiences. When you go into a bakery and you buy a pie and you bite into the pie, and if it's absolutely disgusting, you don't blame the flour, you don't blame the ingredients. You say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the baker? What happened here that this pie is disgusting? It's the same with my profession as a photographer. You are an ingredient, so don't blame yourself for the result of what comes out of the camera. I am the person that is supposed to use the ingredients, the tool of the camera, the light, you as the main ingredient to create something beautiful and delicious. If you don't like your photos, it's not your fault.
Hmm.
It's my fault. And so that's why I have just about a 100% accuracy and success behind these 9 years of being in business, because I went into this knowing that weight is mine, not yours. That effort is mine, not yours. The joy of creating is mine, not yours. And when you see the result, there are a lot of people who sit in my chair and I'm jumping up and down and I'm squealing and I'm happy and I'm giggling. And I don't know if you saw some of that when we worked together
Yeah.
or with the other 10 people that were in the room. But there's a reason why I squeal and I giggle and I'm jumping up and down. I get thrill out of being able to use you as my ingredients. And maybe that's the magic. Maybe the magic is, yes, I have a gift of seeing people, but also knowing that it has nothing to do with you. I have to love what I do and be good at what I do in order to get the results that I get.
No, very powerful. And like you said, you have an incredible way of articulating the process and the end result and how you want to make people feel and all that. I didn't want to minimize your talent by saying it was magic because it's so much more than that. It's you've put in the work. You've put in the 10,000 steps to get to the point where you are an absolute craftsman at what you do and being able to pull the energy, as you said, out of people when it comes to taking their photos and helping them build their brand. So I hope I wasn't offensive in minimizing
Absolutely
that.
not. No, absolutely not.
Yes, but
No,
I do.
no offense at all.
Yeah, okay. But I do want to ask you this is, okay, so I'm a business owner and I know, oh, I'm updating my website or I need to get something else done and I need some new photos that really showcase me. It's not just the headshot that I can get anywhere, but I want
Mhm.
something that shows me and my inner energy, as you said. How important is it for someone to know their brand before working with a photographer? Or can that be part of the process? Is the photographer helps you figure out what your brand is?
That's a fantastic question. And the answer to that is yes. There are so many people who come to me before they've gone to the designer or the website artist or anybody. I'm typically the first stop or
Mm.
occasion on the branding road, the journey, right?
Yeah.
Because of exactly what we talked about already. You have to be face forward, you have to be you showing up as the entrepreneur, as the service you, and a lot of times you are your service. You're a coach, you're a nurse, you're a consultant, you're a teacher, educator. You are your, if you're the product, right? You're the service. And so you don't always have to know exactly what your brand is or have your logo and colors and everything before you come to the photography portion. And in fact, here's a good place to say this exactly. I know I'm going to probably create a lot of cringing when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Have
It's
at
actually
it.
not, we're going to have it. We're going to be truthful. It's not a good thing to go to a photographer who does everything. A jack of all trades is a master of none, or a Jane of all trades, whatever. A Jamie, a
Let's
non-ginger
just
of
keep
all
coming up with
trades.
J names.
That's right. And the reason why is the thing that we always know. If you're studying too many things, you're spreading yourself too thin and you don't really become good at anything. I call myself a heart surgeon for a reason. This is the one thing that I do. I study faces, I study anatomy, I study energy. I know the heart and the healing and the trauma of what I do. And so if you're going to someone who does all the things, they're not going to really know how to hone in and zero in on you. Give me the question again because we go off and I go off for these tangents in my brain
Yeah,
space.
no, it was just purely should you know your brand before you work with a photographer, or can your
That's right.
photographer help you get to that essence, that true self, just purely by photographing you?
That's right. And that's why I went off on that tangent
Mhm.
because I was bringing it back to the fact that I am a portrait photographer, a branding photographer. And if you don't even know what your brand is, guess what? That's what I do. Before we photograph, I'm going to take you through the conversation of what is your brand? Your first question to me, Sue, today was, what's your brand, Meka? And so that's exactly the question that I ask people when they show up. What's the mood that we're going to photograph? What's the environment? I'm not too concerned about colors unless, you really are going to put these on your website and you have plans for these, that sort of thing. But
Right.
it's such a minimal thing compared to what's the energy that we're going for? Are you bold? Are you brassy? Are you a little mysterious? Or do you need to be bright and vibrant? And believe it or not, everybody's the same. We
Mhm.
talk about marketing, we talk about entrepreneurship. but your photos should exude the energy that is you. And so I want to know who you are, what your brand is. And if you go into a photographer who does architecture and food photography and blah, 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 they're not
Right.
actually all the time going to ask you that very important question.
Perfect. So now two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go, even though absolutely love talking with you. But you have a section on your website that talks about the type of photos that stop an audience from scrolling past you. What are those types of photos? I don't know if maybe you can talk about what do you think, what works to get attention?
I don't think anybody's ever asked me that directly before. Look at you being innovative and different.
Yes.
I do say that a lot, that the photos that we make together are often scroll stopping. And I feel like there are multiple reasons why. Number one, I'm such a rebel, Sue. I really am. I love learning the rules just so I can best know how to break them. And so I break rules with the most grace you've ever seen anybody break rules with.
Yeah.
And I want that for you too. I don't want anyone to leave me feeling like now that they've got these new photos, they're just part of, they've done what they're supposed to do, bare minimum, and now they're part of the crowd that they're supposed to be part of. No. When
Hmm.
you leave my experience, I want you to feel top level. I want you to feel above the crowd. I want you to feel like you've done something both for yourself and your business that is incomparable, that makes you feel magnetic and exciting. And that magnetism and that excitement is what draws everyone else in too. So the scroll stopping that I refer to very often is the look in someone's eyes
Hmm.
or the energy that the photo is exuding. We're
Okay.
not going to do sit down and cross your arms and a flash in your face and pick one of three, left, middle, and you're done. We're going to make sure that you're breathing and talking with your entire energy in this photo so that when someone's scrolling through the array, the pool, the page of all these people who do exactly what you do, when they get to yours, they feel your breathing, they
Hmm.
hear you talking, they see the connection instantly. And that makes them stop scrolling and ask themselves, how do I get to this person?
I like that. I like that. To me, I view it too as you're scrolling through your feed and especially social media and things like that, where you want to stop someone and get their attention. I view it as the best photographs are like, it's almost like you opened a door and you happen to catch someone doing something at that moment in time. They're natural, they're not posed, they may not even know you're looking at them, but it's a much truer, authentic, I think, representation of who you are in that captured moment.
Oh, absolutely. I like to say when I'm photographing people, it's always my favorite to get those kind of photos where it's just like, oh, ah, I'm just doing my thing and there just happens to be a camera here. What?
Mhm.
And yeah, if you look through my site, those are the ones that I often post most because it's just like what you said. It's unposed. It's not a, the big giant smile is always great, and the sitting at the desk with your hands a certain way is always very engaging. But the ones that speak the most are the ones where you just catch someone in their own presence, where they're confident and they don't really care if someone's there or not, but that's the moment where you want to know them the most.
Yeah, no, I love this whole conversation about that because, again, especially as you're talking about whether it's personal brand or even organizations, especially service businesses, where everything is about building the relationship, your brand are your people, they're the ones who are
Mm-hmm.
going to deliver, then you want to get to know those people and you absolutely
Yes.
want to see them represented in their true light because that's what's going to create the relationship that people will work together. So thank you so much for sharing all of this information because again, I cannot express how much I firmly believe this whole concept of authentic photography and being your true self and being able to capture, like you said, your inner energy. It does so much for building your brand and communicating with why someone should work with you, talk with you, engage with you. So I appreciate everything that you shared here today. I hope it makes some people shed a little fear about going out and getting those authentic photos taken. But to wrap this up here, I want to ask you one last question that I've been asking all of my guests because I love giving a shout out to small and mid-sized businesses that are just absolutely doing an amazing job of communicating and building their brand. Do you have a small business or an organization or even a person that you admire for how they brand themselves or bring themselves to market?
Lots of people come to mind, but in effort to narrow it down to just one, a friend of mine took me, I can't even tell you where it was, but as soon as I say it, it's easy to find. I walked into this space instantly, Sue.
Yeah.
My talk about scroll stopping. They took my breath away with the branding. The
Hmm.
way they were dressed, the way they were styled, the design of the very small space. It's a jewelry shop called Koi, Khoi.
Okay.
And it is on the north side of Chicago and in my neighborhood where I'm located ish. It's all custom jewelry. And I believe the woman, I spoke with her. She was actually in just lounging in the front of her store when I walked in. And just there were these giant photographs that had been beautifully taken of the jewelry and the models on the wall. And oh my gosh, just it was mouth-watering delicious. And everything that I've learned about like the experience of being there, I was treated to what do you call it? Refreshments and the
Hmm.
sit down experience and how they presented the jewelry. And there are even little, tiny little mirrors like this. There just
Hmm.
happens to be one,
Yeah.
but they had sayings on it like "You are beautiful" in a very unique way. Just each mirror had something different that was empowering and encouraging on it. And I wanted to stand there the entire day. It was a wonderful experience. So shout out to Koi.
Shout out to Koi. Love that. Anyway, Meka, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your insights on branding and the power of photography to showcase a brand. But if people want to hire you to photograph them, or even to hear you speak because you are a fantastic speaker, how can they find you?
Everything is found through SpiderMeka.com, SpiderMeka.com. And the easiest thing to do, Sue, is to sign up for my mailing list. I call it Streams of Silk, and everything that I do can be notified through there.
Perfect. Perfect. Again, thank you so much for taking your time or for taking time today to sit and talk with you. And I just want to say to everyone else, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Turbo Branding Show. I hope you've been inspired to ignite your growth by leveraging your brand. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could help me build the Turbo Branding brand. Please share this episode and be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe even leave a review. And if you or someone you know would be a great guest for the show, whether that's an inspiring founder or a CEO, please let us know in the comments or connect with us via email. But thank you and stay tuned for our next episode.